This is the Pretty Deadly Self-Defense Podcast. I'm Susie Kahlich, the founder of Pretty Deadly Self-Defense.
And I'm Kate Lismer, a writer, traveler, mother, and expat. As a woman who lives in a big city and likes to travel, I'm very curious about self-defense. I've never had any training, so I have a lot of questions.
And I have a lot of answers.
We figured you probably have similar questions too, and so we thought it'd be a great idea to share this conversation and put it in a podcast.
So welcome to the Pretty Deadly Self-Defense Podcast.
We've talked more broadly about self-care and mindfulness and wellness. I wonder if you could talk specifically about how you consider nutrition and self-care as like part of self-defense, or vice versa, how self-defense lends itself to self-care.
I feel that from a really fundamental level, learning to defend yourself, which to me is really learning how to use your body in the most efficient and effective way, is a part of self-care. I mean, it's really fundamental. Why would you not learn how to defend yourself? Or as a friend of mine put it recently, if I was broken into, I would put bars on my windows and I'd change the locks on my doors. I'd take security measures. Or if you move into a bad neighborhood, you do that, right? And I think, why would you not do that about your own body? I mean, this is your home. It's your first, last, and only true home.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you not care for it in that same way that you put an alarm on your Audi?
Mm-hmm.
That being said, I love candy, which has no nutritional value, kids. It's terrible and it rots your teeth.
What is your candy of choice?
So my candy of choice is something called Dragibus by Haribo, which makes gummy bears, and for some reason does not sell Dragibus in Germany. They only sell it in France. It's the only place you can get it.
Are they like gummy bears?
No, they're sort of like jelly beans, but only chewier and more intense. They're amazing.
Like Jelly Bellies.
But eat more.
More.
Yeah. They're incredible. I'll bring you some next time I go to France. Yeah, they're really bad for you. And so is all candy.
Public service message.
Public service message. I really, really love candy. If I could just eat that all the time, I'd be pretty happy. Nutrition. I do practice a type of nutrition, I want to say, that does not include candy.
I practice a type of nutrition.
I don't know how else to say it. I listen really closely to my body, and what my body needs. And obviously I dismiss things like we need candy, if that's what my body says. But I do listen if my body says, let's get cauliflower this week. I have no idea.
Your body says that to you. That's nice of it.
Yeah, I know.
Mine always says, hey, those cookies look really good. And
Mine does too, always. But I don't always listen to that part. It's when I'm craving certain things, I listen really closely to the craving.
Mm-hmm.
Because I figure there's probably something that I need nutritionally. And even if the craving starts out as, a Mars bar, okay, it's probably not a Mars bar, but what's inside that Mars bar that I might need?
Mm-hmm.
Is it just sugar? Is my blood sugar low? Is it peanut? I don't know. Is there Mars bar?
Protein?
Whatever's in there, maybe there's something I need. So nutrition, I'm not a nutrition expert. And I am not an expert even at taking care of my own nutrition because I get busy and lazy and all the other things that other humans do as well. But I do think that nutrition is an important part of self-defense. Absolutely. And I think one of my trainers, Jaren, is a permaculture expert. And she gave this fermentation workshop, which was great. And in this workshop, she pointed out that our bodies contain, I think it's like 3 trillion microbes. And we're basically just walking Tupperware for the microbes. That's how she put it, which I thought was great. this I found so fascinating. And she said that your 3 trillion microbes are unique to you, the combination, because you pick them up from what your specific path in life.
Mm-hmm.
But these microbes, I realized, really kind of dictate our lives, because they might be microbes who are like, we need lots of sugar. We need candy.
Mine want carbs.
Right. Yeah. And I've met people who don't have a sweet tooth. They're not in my lives. my one life. They're not in that life. But nonetheless, I've met them and I find it really interesting. Like, how can you not have a sweet tooth? But they really love salty things. Right. And then there's people who, they're vegetarian, not even for political reasons, but because meat physically makes them sick, or people who have an allergy to this or that or the other thing. But a lot of that is actually microbes, which can also affect our mental state.
Mm-hmm.
So when Jaren pointed that out, I thought, well, how much of ourselves are we really?
Mm-hmm.
And how much of ourselves is just slave to one of these, to all of the 3 trillion microbes that are living in our bodies? We're just a host.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then that way, maybe the quality of my life will be improved if I serve the microbes.
Right. Well, I've been following this, like, I only heard of intuitive eating like in recent years, but when I was younger, I had different forms of like disordered eating, and I would never say I was like a full blown anorexic or bulimic, but I definitely had phases where I was binging or purging, and for me it was more control stuff going on. And I remember just one year I was just so miserable, and I knew it had to do with I wasn't eating enough. I was
Mm-hmm.
so unhappy, and I made a decision. I think I was 22, and I just decided I was never going to do that to myself again. And ever since then, I've really tried to eat like what I feel like I really need to eat. And it's
Mm-hmm.
actually worked for me. I mean, I feel like, I joke around about like eating cookies and stuff, but because I let myself do that, I don't feel I'm ever living in deprivation. And so for me, again, it's all about listening to my body and sort of being attuned to what you call the microbes, but also just having respect enough for my body's needs and not feeling so much like I have to control it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, exactly. It is your home, and it's up to you to keep it together.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're only going to lose it in one way, which is through death. But ideally, you want it to be a comfortable home to live in for a long time.
And so what would you say? I mean, of course, there's listening to your body, and also we're all different. So we're all going to have very different nutritional needs and
Mm-hmm.
Even cues. So if we're talking to a student, what is your nutritional? I mean, do you have like a general take on how people can really be true to themselves, but also taking care of their bodies in a natural, like, I don't know, not controlling way, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah, it's not something that comes up very much in classes, actually. But when it does come up, it's usually kind of mostly what I just said, like listen deeply to your body, not just on the surface. So, and again, I mean, we use the information that we have. So if you're not exposed to a certain level of food and nutrition, then that might translate itself to, a more junk foody kind of thing. And I say this in the sense of, years ago, I was part of the Big Sister program in Los Angeles, and I mentored this kid who was going to one of the vastly overcrowded public schools in LA County. And she was telling me about the food that they were given from the school. And she was learning about nutrition and how mind blowing it was for her, because she wasn't exposed to any of that stuff. Whereas I grew up with parents who were very much like, vegetables and fruit and
Mm-hmm.
So she was, I mean, for her, eating healthfully was, a burrito and a hamburger and whatever, because she didn't know that there were options.
Mm-hmm.
So when we listen to ourselves and we listen to, when our body's like, eat a bag of chips, there might be something else in there that we're really looking for. You know, and if we have the resources to take the time and, you know, all right, what's in a bag of chips? When I crave something really unusual for me, like cauliflower, if the craving is really, really strong, I'm often curious as to why it is that I want this. So I look up the nutritional stuff. What's in cauliflower that my body seems to need right now? You know, and I can eliminate the things that I'm already normally eating. Actually, I don't, off the top of my head, I don't know what's in cauliflower, but let's say it's vitamin A, vitamin C, and potassium, right? I eat a lot of bananas, so potassium, good. I eat a lot of apples, which may or may not have vitamin A. Like, I have no idea what the stuff contains, but I can eliminate the things I already have and be like, oh, okay, obviously I needed this one thing. How fascinating. I prefer to get these things from food rather than from pills.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's just, it's the same. Slow down, listen to your body. What is it really telling you?
Pretty Deadly Self-Defense is a self-defense program developed by 20-year martial arts veteran and violent crime survivor Susie Kahlich. Based in Berlin, Germany, you can also find Pretty Deadly in a growing number of cities around the world through the Pretty Deadly website or the Pretty Deadly app. Learn more about Susie and the Pretty Deadly community at prettydeadlyselfdefense.com.